Hey folks, this is Kelani. Welcome back to the Antorus raid guide for normal and heroic. This time we'll be looking at the Varimathras encounter. This fight is all about stacking up. We used one melee stack and one range stack. The only people who shouldn't be stacked up for most of the fight is the tanks, but even then they should always be within 8 yards of each other. This is mainly due to the boss's ability Alone in the Darkness. If any player at any time is not within 8 yards of another player, they will be damaged with Alone in the Darkness, which deals a lot of shadow damage. The main problem here isn't actually the ability itself, but another ability called Misery. Whenever any player takes shadow damage, they will be debuffed with Misery, which is a 7-second debuff that prevents all healing on the target and increases the physical damage they take by 200%. So remember that shadow damage from any source is bad. When the boss reaches 100 energy, he will cast Shadow Strike at the current tank, which deals a large amount of shadow damage and applies Misery. Your tanks will want to use damage reduction cooldowns for this and swap every time it happens. Remember that your tanks will need to stay within 8 yards of each other. On heroic mode, Shadow Strike will also cleave in front of the boss, so only one tank can get hit at a time. The tank which isn't tanking needs to stay behind the boss, but still within 8 yards of the tank with aggro. Your tanks should change places whenever they tank swap. The boss will also periodically cast Marked Prey, which will target a random raid member and send a projectile towards them. This projectile will knock back the first person it hits, which is more or less always going to be a melee. Our range stack just behind the melee, so any player who got knocked back would get knocked back into the range stack. They can just return to their usual position. Throughout the fight you will also have to deal with Dark Fissures. These spawn underneath random players and will explode after a short duration, dealing shadow damage to anyone who gets hit. You will want 2 stack points for your melee, 1 behind each of the boss's legs should be fine, and 2 stack points for ranged, which are positioned just behind your melee. Whenever Dark Fissures is cast, you should wait until a few have spawned and then move to your other stack point. There's also constant raid-wide damage coming from the Torments of Shivarra ability. On normal this just deals fire damage to your entire raid, but after 6 minutes the damage changes to Shadow, which is the boss's Harden Rage, as everyone will constantly have the Misery debuff. On heroic mode, the Torments of Shivarra changes a few times before the shadow damage. After 2 minutes you will have Torments of Frost, which deals continuous frost damage to the entire raid while slowing everyone. This means you just need to move a little earlier for Dark Fissures, but that's about it. After 4 minutes you'll have Torment of Fel, which deals increasing damage over time. The longer this goes on, the harder it's going to be to heal, so save some healing cooldowns for the later stages. After 6 minutes the damage will turn to Shadow just like normal, which will wipe your raid. There's another new ability on heroic mode called Necrotic Embrace. This debuff lasts for 6 seconds, and when it expires it will deal a burst of shadow damage to the target, but it will also jump to anyone within 10 yards. That means the target of Necrotic Embrace has to run at least 10 yards away from the group a few seconds before the debuff expires, let it explode outside of the group and then return to the stack. Running away from the group means they will probably get hit by Alone in the Darkness, so make sure players are at full health when they run out. And that's it. Basically, as long as you stay stacked on normal you're fine, and if you handle the Necrotic Embrace on heroic properly you should be fine as well. So that's all you need to take down Varimathras on normal and heroic. Make sure to check out all the other boss guides so you're well prepared for anything Antorus can throw at you. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.